we have new coloring crayons?
Listen, I've got the whole set here tonight, so there you go.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call to order the Utility Service Board meeting of April 20th to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I actually have a flag down here in my corner, by the way.
So do I.
What was that?
I said, I have a flag down here in my corner. So
Oh,
I wasn't
okay.
putting it out.
Bob says he's still trying to join.
Can you folks hear me? This is Rick.
Here it comes.
Yes, Rick.
Here he comes.
Thank you.
Andrew, you want to do a roll call?
Rick Gunyon.
Present.
Mike Reeder. Present. Joe Root.
Present.
Kid Brewer.
Present.
Mike Kelly.
Present. You received in your email, you should have a copy of the minutes from the last meeting, which was April 6th. I entertain a motion for approval of those minutes, or if there's discussion that needs to take place.
So moved.
Who was the well, by the way, when you make a motion, be sure and say your name and then the motion so that we know who does that, because sometimes we can't catch it.
That was Reeder. Yeah, Mike Reeder.
Joe
Mike
Reed, I'll
Reeder,
second that.
the
I do
second.
have a question when we're open for question.
All right, Andrew, roll call. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Joe had a question, I think.
Joe, go ahead.
Under the wastewater, it lists all these different bids and the alternative bids and everything else. I just wanted to make sure I haven't actually seen them, so I want to make sure that these are actually correct. Does anybody understanding what I'm saying? There's no typos on them or anything.
I think Bob Holden's going to talk about that in a little bit, but yes, the numbers appear to be correct, Joe, from what I opened them.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, Andrew, roll call.
Rick Gunyon.
I'm going to vote aye.
Joe Root.
I will vote aye.
Mike Reeder. I'll vote aye. Kid Brewer.
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
I'll vote aye. We're going to go to the general manager's report next.
Okay. Couple things on the, right now we're scheduled for the transformer to be energized again at the Burlington substation on May 4th. And then that's when the inspections and everything will take place. And with that, if everything goes well there, we should start switching back and putting the Burlington sub online May 6th or 7th. Everything's going along really well, and we're just about to the point to turning it on. So things are good. My next thing is with this whole, the way that we're working our crews right now, I know the governor's executive order has it going through May 1st. And I'm assuming that we're going to plan on at least going to May 1st. Do we leave it flexible and carry it on into May, or do we wait and see what happens at May 1st with the governor's executive order? What's your guys' thoughts on that?
My thought is go to May 1st and see where we're going from there. I mean, that's where he's got it now. It's not before then, correct?
Correct.
I think we ought to entertain looking at that on May 1st. That's my thoughts on it.
That's what I figured that we would do too, Mike. Just we'll just have to wait and see where it goes to from there. And
Right.
we can continue it on. It's just that, well, there's not much we can do about it. We're just falling behind on some things which is expected. We'll just be busy once it's done, but I didn't figure that we would change it prior to anything that the governor's doing at this point in time.
Do you know if we'll be in the second week where everybody will be equal by May 1st? I mean,
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter right now what's fair or what's equal. It's gonna be pretty close. It's hard to tell.
a lot of times the kind of preliminary, what he's going to do comes out like on Thursday or Friday
Right.
before that.
Yeah,
before that
so-
happens.
Yeah, that's what he did this past week. He let it be known on Friday what was gonna happen there.
Well,
So,
this order ends on Friday, May 1st, right?
yes,
I
yes.
thought.
So probably maybe Wednesday or Thursday, there'll be some preliminary report.
Right.
Other than that, that's really what we have. We're just, like I said, we're not struggling along. We're just coming along. The work at the park is done from the electric side of everything, and everything that we have built so far has been paid for. So far, we just got one last bill to send them. So we're in good standings there. From electric and water water and storm is all done at the hospital. Electric, we're set to transformer, and everything else is just kind of moseying along as best we can do it at this point in time throughout the utilities.
Anything
And
else?
I've got a question for Todd.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Okay, in this resolution, it says that the 20-17 executive order by the governor shall expire on May the 5th.
Well, I thought he said TV today was May the 1st.
I think it is May the 1st.
The executive order 20-17 is not a stay-at-home order. That is the executive order declaring a public health emergency. So that one does expire on May 5th. The executive order pertaining to the stay-at-home order, which was signed today, that one is set to expire May 1st. So those are two different things. So the public health emergency may continue longer than the stay-at-home order. But right now it's set to expire on May 5th.
Are we operating under the public health emergency then, or the stay at home?
I think we're under them both.
We're under both. The resolution that I prepared is under the public health emergency, not necessarily the stay-at-home order, because even if we have, so the government guidelines for what we should do as a government entity pertaining to meetings is based on the health emergency, not necessarily based on the stay-at-home. So the stay-at-home really affects businesses, and there is some language in there regarding governmental entities, but all of the language regarding allowing electronic meetings, softening the rules for what we can do, and things like that for our meetings came out of the public health emergency, not the stay-at-home order. So that's why I refer to that order, because that's the one that actually impacted us the most.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, or Todd has another thing he needs to talk about.
Yeah, last week I talked to a couple different board members and told them where we were at with our disconnect list. If we would have done disconnects last Tuesday, we would have had 376 disconnects to do. And I checked on it today, and we have had people paying and everything. It's dropped down to a whopping 342 right now, but we still have a big bunch that when we get the okay that we could start doing disconnects again, we're just I'm gonna need some advice on how do we approach this to get it going, because we will probably run into a thing where people want to start making payments or things like that. So it's still gonna be a mess when it's done, but we have had some people pay in the last week. Approximately 30 of them have paid in the last week to get their accounts up to snuff. But it's something to keep in the back of your minds that we're gonna run into a hornet's nest.
I think we'll have to at least go 2 to 3 months to if not longer, to let people get caught up. We're gonna have to get back to work. And I don't believe we can go within 2 weeks after it and start doing disconnects.
No, and I'm wondering myself, Kent, if the governor will come back and put a timeline in place, since he's the one that said that we couldn't do disconnects anymore, if he's gonna come back and say, okay, the economy's rolling again, and you have 2 months, you have 3 months to do it, along with what you just mentioned as well.
I agree.
I do know that I read somewhere where they're not allowed to do foreclosures or anything through the end of this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
But it's something that we're gonna have to work on and keep our eye on, and we'll figure something out, or we'll just have to go with along the lines of what the governor's probably gonna say. That's probably where it's gonna come from.
And any other discussion on any of that? Okay. I want to go to Alicia, and we need to do this resolution now, so we'll go to Alicia for legal.
As you all may or may not have seen, I drafted a resolution based on the claims. Essentially, what we're allowed to do is we're allowed to delegate one person to be kind of the representative for the claims. That person can sign the claims register, but then once we have our normal in-person meetings again, we will have everybody have to catch up and sign all of the claims registers from whatever point forward. So last meeting we discussed just sending them around and having everybody sign and then scan and send it back, and that's a pain. So this way, one person can sign. What I set up was that Mike Kelly would be the person to sign, and then if Mike was unavailable for some reason, then Kent would be the lucky signatory. And this will go on until the public health emergency is no longer there. So if we have another executive order extending that public emergency past May 5th, then this will extend as well. And if we don't have another public health emergency executive order, then this will expire on May 5th. But it basically allows us just to do that until we can have in-person meetings again.
This is,
Mike?
go ahead.
Okay. Is there a possibility that these claims, once you sign them or something, that we could pick them up and kind of stay? I really don't want to go 6 or 8 weeks and all of a sudden have to try to go through all these claims and, put our signatures on them. But sometime within the next 2 weeks, would you have them? And we could pick them up and.
Andrew, could they be at the electric office, which would be a little easier for people to get in and out?
Need to unmute. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because I got them from everybody today and gave them to Todd. And then I'm assuming Todd brought them and
Yeah, we have them
now.
here.
Yeah, we're talking
So-
about the
The doctors,
pay
right?
vouchers.
Yeah.
He can just
The
hold
dockets.
those there at your
Okay.
office.
Okay,
And then if you're in the neighborhood, you could drop in and sign them, or wait a week or whatever. Then you won't have to do them. There's probably
Yeah.
6 or 7 tonight, so.
That way you don't have to stop in and get stuck in the foyer or in the stairwell at Old Stony, trying to sign them there. So
yeah, we'll just put them on the counter there, right in the corner of Sarah's desk, and have them there for whoever can stop by and sign them. We'll just have them there.
Everybody,
Good idea. I would certainly take advantage of that, yes.
Me too.
I would still recommend passing the resolution simply because if somebody, for some reason, if we all get sick or something and we can't sign them, then this gives us the flexibility to wait in case we need that. You can always sign them earlier than that, that's fine, but, and really the language in here says that one person can sign them and or approve them. The guidance from the State Board of Accounts allows us to only have one person approve them, and then we approve them later as a board if for some reason everybody gets sick and we don't have a meeting or something like that. But if you all approve them now, that's perfectly fine. And then if you want to sign them in advance of when we have our next meeting, that's fine too. But I would recommend still passing it just in case something goes wrong and we need it.
I'll move that we pass resolution number 2020-04-20-01.
Second, Mike Reeder.
Motion by Kent, second by Mike Reeder. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, Andrew, roll call.
Skip and mute, sorry. Rick Benyon,
Aye.
Joe Root,
Aye.
Mike Reeder,
Aye.
Kim Brewer,
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye. Okay, moving on to claims report.
You want to do,
Oh, let's go to Bob Holden, or
Bob and Bridget?
Bridget and Bob. Thank you.
I just unmuted, I can share I think I can start my video. There we go. So last week, or 2 weeks ago, we opened bids for both contract A and contract B. On contract A, we had 5 bids. They ranged in value from $26,505,500 to the low bid, $22,719,000. The low bid was the apparent low bidder was Red as Bone Engineering Corporation. We reviewed all of the bids for contract A and contract B. All of the bidding documents as submitted were complete. And so we have, for contract A, 5 valid bids. At this point in time, we have forwarded certified bid tabulation. And at this point in time, if you should approve moving forward with A. Contract B was a slightly different story. We had 2 bids submitted for contract B, although we had 12 plan holders for contract B. We had bids that range from 3.8 million to 2.8 million. Immediately after, well, not immediately after, but first thing on Tuesday morning after we received bids, the apparent low bidder called with the note that they had left approximately $500,000 worth of pipe cost out of their bid, and they asked to have their bid rescinded. By the contract documents, they have 24 hours to make this request. They made it certainly within the 24 hours. And contract documents support the withdrawal of a bid if a significant error is made in the bid. Certainly the leaving of, or the omission of the pipe costs is a significant error. I have forwarded their letter to the utility along with the bidding documents. And so I think it takes a formal action by the board to go ahead and formally rescind their bid. We still hold their bid bond, but I certainly think it's in everyone's best interest not to take their bid bond. They have acted in good faith. That leaves us with 1 bid on contract B for $3.8 million. After we reviewed the bids, we reached back out to Reedy Financial, and we got the Reedy Financial results today. Within the current rate structure, there is appropriate coverage to proceed with both projects. Although the projects did get slightly over budget, there is enough money to do 2 loan closings for contract A at a 20-year financing package through SRF, and then contract B or Series B closing for approximately $4 million that would be financed for 30 years. And Reedy recommends wrapping those contract B or Series B bonds around the contract A bonds that allows the entire project to be financed under the current rate structure. So I guess at this point in time, I would make a formal recommendation to the board to accept the bids for contract A. After conversing, and with having one valid bid for contract B, I believe it's in the best interest of the utility to go ahead and rebid contract B at a later date, after a couple months when life kind of settles back down. And we understand, we operate in a little more sane world, and I think that we will get much better pricing than the 3.8 million that we have right now.
Bob,
Yes,
I have a question.
yes, sir.
With the bid, the 2,799,000, even if you add the 500,000 to that, there's still gonna be 3,299,160. There's still gonna be less than the other bid. Is there a way they could amend their bid and go forward and save us that additional 500,000?
No, Joe, there is not. That's not a valid bidding procedure.
Okay, I agree, we need to rebid it then.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, I got a question. This is Mike Reeder.
Yeah.
I believe the council approved us to go with $27 million.
That is correct.
Where's
There
your
will be-
fees? Where's your fees come in on this? That's gonna push us well over the 27 million.
And Mike, you are correct. That was one of the things I didn't mention. It will require an amending of the rate ordinance. The rates will not change. There is appropriate coverage with the rates that have been put into place. The 27, if you remember when we approved the rates, the 27 was kind of an upper cap. That would need to be amended upwards, okay? But the rates will not have to change based on where the utility is financially right now.
So what are we looking at for your fee?
For my fee,
Well, for Wessler's fee.
our fees aren't changing, Joe. Or I'm sorry, Mike.
I'm Mike.
Mike,
Okay. So what was your fees on that?
our fees are just right, a little under $3 million.
So it takes us to 30 million, give or take $1 or $2.
Yeah,
Mike, some of that bill has, some of those bills have already been paid as the design work has gone through. Some of that,
Right.
some of those bills have already been paid. We're probably up over $1 million mark already on
Right.
that.
We're very close. It's just under. Working with Caitlin through all this stuff. Yes, it's just under $1 million right now.
Okay.
and Todd, but all of those fees have been built into the financing to be paid to the utility.
In excess of 27 million?
Yes.
Okay.
What I'm referring to is the $1 million that the utilities paid out of pocket.
Right.
Todd, that money in the financing that was forwarded from Reedy, that money is unless I misread something, is being scheduled to be repaid to the utility.
Yes, that's correct. I agree with you, Bob.
Okay.
But if push come to shove, we already have some of it done. If we have to go back and look at something, is the point I was trying to make. That,
Okay.
Part of this has already been taken care of with cash on hand.
Well, the point I was making was it's supposed to come in at $27 million with all fees, and now we're gonna be knocking on the door at 30 million.
That is correct.
Okay, one of the things I heard was that we need a motion to allow the one company to rescind their bid. Didn't you request that, Bob?
Yes.
What are you calling, contractor A to rescind their bid? Well,
Contract B,
to rescind whose contract?
Midwest Mole.
I'll make a motion that we, rescind Midwest Mold's, bid for contract B.
Second.
Question?
Who was the second from?
Rick,
Rick? Okay.
Question from Joe.
Go, Joe.
If we rebid this, all we have to do is reject all bids in B and take care of that with a new bid. Is that correct?
What was the question? Say the question again.
If we reject all bids on B, alternative B, would we not just make a motion to rebid that and do away with all bids?
I think that's what Bob requested.
Well, we're rescinding whoever's bid. Then we'll have to do another motion to reject the other bid, to open it back up.
So, we're not hearing who's talking.
Bob, hold on.
Okay.
Somebody's TV's blocking out the mics.
I can hear what he's saying.
Someone has their TV on, and we're hearing feedback because they're not muted.
Mine shut off.
Okay,
So we have a
motion
second.
to rescind the bid of that, I forget which company it was,
Midwest Bowl.
Midwest. And do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call.
Mike Reeder,
Aye.
Joe Root. He's muted. Did he say aye?
Didn't hear.
Aye.
There you go. Rick Gunion,
Rick is aye.
Kent Brewer,
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye. Now we need a motion to reject the bids and to rebid the project B.
I'll make a motion that we reject all bids, remaining bids for project B. We rebid it at a later date.
Second, Mike Reeder.
Any further discussion on that particular motion? Roll call, Andrew.
Rick Gunion,
Rick, aye.
Joe Root,
Aye.
Mike Reeder,
Mike Reeder, aye.
Kent Brewer,
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Mike Kelly, aye. All right, now we're at the, I see Bob's back. Now we need a motion for approving a bid or accepting a bid.
Yes, for contract A.
And the recommended company was what again, Bob?
Bowen
Bowen
Engineering.
Engineering Corporation.
Bowman Engineering. Okay, a motion?
I'll make that motion. Joe?
A second?
And Mike, Mr. Chairman, this is Rick. I will second the motion to select Bone Engineering.
Any other discussion?
Well, I've got a lot of mixed emotions, you know. To be honest with you, I'm not gonna vote for it because, you know, we were set at 27 million with the council, and I believe, in my opinion, that we need to come in with our total cost at 27 million or less. So is there some place that we can trim some fat?
Ken, we've been pushing on costs on this project the entire way through the design. And it's a situation where we got into more need that became apparent as we got into the design, as well as escalating costs over the period of time that we were in design. We have pushed hard. There is not a lot of fat in the job. I think PJ can attest there were some wants that were omitted from the project.
Yeah. If you're asking, Bob, we sat down a few times and we cut out a lot of ones that we would have really liked to have. But I think Bob's right. Everything that's left is pretty much a need.
My side of it is how long did we take a look at this project before we moved forward with it and sent it out for bids? And we came in with $27 million, and now we're going to be at $30 million total cost.
And gentlemen, we can table contract B. And right now, contract B it can be driven to a large extent to industrial park development, and we can stay under the 27 million.
But still don't get the whole project done. I mean, hindsight of going and looking at a project at $27 million and coming in at $3 million over budget is what it's ended up going to be.
Hey, Bob,
Yes, sir.
just Joe, if we're gonna rebid the second part of this project, would it be advantageous for us to rebid the first part and see if they can be cheaper?
Joe, my recommendation would be no. I think we got a very aggressive bid from Bowen on this project. At this point in time in the market that we're dealing in, I think we got a bargain price from Bowen right now. And so my recommendation would be not to rebid contract A. I do not think it will come in cheaper.
Okay, thank you.
This is Rick, let me ask the question. I don't know the source of information I have, but my understanding is there are several other similar projects in north central Indiana coming up for bid in the near future. Am I right on that, Bob?
Rick, the bidding climate was very, there was a lot on the market before COVID hit and everybody went home. There have been a lot of projects shelved because of COVID and the uncertainty. To be frank, that was one of the reasons that we got the very aggressive bid from Bowen. And so I don't know what the bidding climate is going to look like when the economy opens back up. My guess is that a lot of those folks are hopeful that there will be some sort of a stimulus package coming, and that will be an infrastructure stimulus that got talked a lot about a couple weeks ago. What we're hearing now is that is not likely to happen. And so I think a lot of those projects got shelved with the hope of getting some free money. And I don't, right now, I can't say in good faith that that's out there.
Okay, so my second, maybe more of a question, and this is a little bit about what Mr. Reeder said earlier. Haven't we been looking at this project for right about 2 years now?
No, a little longer than that.
Okay, I'm trying to be kind. Okay, 2 to 4 years.
5.
Okay, so all things being equal, and I understand we're over our projected costs, but one reason we might be is this is a 5-year effort to get this thing going, maybe. So that may be part of it. I just have a mind to get moving on it. That's just where I am.
Well, and I agree, Rick. I mean, our wastewater treatment plant's close to capacity, and, I think we gotta go with that. If we don't do, contract B right now and we see where we're at, I'm not gonna take the word of somebody else saying they talked to Reedy without Reedy coming to us and presenting where this flows. Our rates were set up to cover a maximum of $27 million. And, you know, I will not be in favor of us going before the city council and changing the bond or anything to go more than $27 million. So, if that means the force main side of that project doesn't go, then that's totally fine with me. But, you know, our rates were set up for the 27 million, and till I see it black and white on paper where Reedy wants to come in and say we can handle the 30 million with the current rate structure, you know, I have a problem with that.
I understand.
$3 million miss, I just can't accept that.
So let me ask the doctor the question here. If we're essentially putting contract B on hold for the moment, we're gonna rebid it at a later date. Are we able to accept the other contract from Bowen and be at 27 million, or are we still over?
No, you would, if you accept the contract day price, the entire project cost comes in below 27 million.
But we don't get our force main that was
I'm
originally,
sorry, yeah, for contract day, the entire contract day project cost should be 27.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
So how do we give up by giving up the force main project?
And I'd need, you know, maybe we'd have to, you know, get some more black and white, you know. Like I said, I'm not taking Reedy's word through this Zoom and all this stuff without seeing it on paper that, the current rate structure will, take care of the 3 million. I'm not gonna put us in that type of, hit. I would go for contract day, so it's under the 27 million, and, we'll have to figure it out some other way.
I will say, Caitlin Schaefer there at Reedy does have, I was working with her last week. She does have all of the financials for wastewater and sewer. And so, you know, I would assume it would just be a matter of reaching out to her and asking directly. She should have all that information. And if not readily available, then she can probably put it together.
I'd like to see it.
I've got the report. I can forward it to you all. I got it about 4:00.
This is Alicia. I also think that if we are going to ask the council to approve greater than the 27 million, we need to make the motion to conditionally accept the bid, because there is always a chance that the city council says no. So just keep that in mind as well. If that's something that the board decides that they want to do, they will need to conditionally accept the bid, with the understanding that if the city council does not approve the increase, that we are basically without an option at that point. So keep that.
Well, Alicia, if they approve the contract day price, the project cost comes in below 27.
I understand that, but if they decide to move forward with both, they would need to conditionally accept.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
I think I said earlier, I will not vote to go before the city council and ask for any money. So we will figure out working with our 27 million and less.
One other thing we need to take into consideration is even though they come in with their engineering bid and what they did, you know how every project we've ever had, we've always had cost overruns after they start the project, come back.
Right.
So that would be a concern of mine also.
Joe, there is a contingency built into the financing that they have 5% of the project cost held for contingency for that, so that the entire project cost would come in below the estimated level that you'll see in this financial report, okay?
I know I've heard that, but, I've been on many other projects and still seen it cost money.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We have a motion that we accept that bid, and it's been seconded. After further discussion, we ready to vote?
Well, let's clarify what the motion was for. What was that for contract A?
Yes, it was for contract A, and I have that written down here for me.
Contract A only.
Correct. For
Roll
both.
roll
Let me
call,
ask
Andrew.
Kent before we vote, Kent, could you agree with approving contract A and not moving forward on B, and that it's contract A is below 27?
Yes.
I got a question for Bob. How's that going to affect, industrial park moving forward?
What will largely drive the lift station force main project is when there is a demand by, in the industrial park, or a demand put on the system by the 65 extension, okay? Depending on how that develops, there are a couple things, there are trigger points there that when 65 develops, it's gonna put a real emphasis on rebuilding TriMass and providing conveyance that way. A significant development in the industrial park will also then start to put pressure on the collection system and will require the lift station force main.
You know, and that's why I made the motion. I mean, I know the wastewater treatment plant has to be expanded.
Oh, yeah,
We have to get that done.
I agree. But again, I just can't believe we missed it by $3 million on our preliminary numbers. That's hard to take.
I said from day one, you can ask Mr. Corey. Never hit it for $27 million. Didn't I, Todd?
Yep,
You did.
yes, you
Then
did.
what kept me with those numbers to take to the council? And that's a question for Westlers. That happened on the 200 lift station.
Didn't we ask for more, and that's what they limited us to? And if I remember correctly, we really asked for more, and they're the ones that set that limit, and we thought we could make that happen.
I think that was a recommendation that went to the council, though. Was it 27 million from Westlers that they could get it done for that? Well, that's not the case right now.
Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to push forward, or do you want to go somewhere else and get information? I mean, that's where we're stuck at that point right now.
Right.
I think we're too far in it. I think we've got to move forward with expansion of the wastewater treatment plant, and you know, force main will have to be put on hold until we see what this comes in at and how the finances work out.
My feeling is the expansion of the plant is fundamental to the growth, no matter what happens about the force main, but we still are at the point where we need to expand that plant. And so I feel like we have to go ahead and do that, because and hopefully we can figure out some way to get the force main at a later date. But I think we kind of counting on getting that expanded as being the kind of the kickoff part for everything that we need to do in wastewater.
I believe the force main, and I've had this conversation with Todd, there's a much better way to get to that treatment plant, and probably a lot cheaper way than the route we're taking to get there. And that's just my opinion from the outside of it. I never did like the plan of the force main going from the 200 West Lift Station, the way it was routed to get it all the way out to the plant.
Keep in mind too, when considering this, that we do have an interlocal agreement with the county regarding the I-65 expansion that we do have to honor. So, I know that the board seems to be pro moving forward with the wastewater expansion, but that is a legal obligation that we do have as well. So keep that in mind when considering your decision.
I don't disagree with you there. It needs to move forward, but I think we need to have some major discussions for any other bigger projects going forward on a direction we're gonna go.
There's no way we can go in and ask for $3 more million and then go before the city council with the water expansion that needs to happen. It just ain't gonna happen. I mean, there's just no way the city council is gonna allow us to add 3 million to that bond and then turn around and come through with what's gotta happen with the water project and let that go.
And I would not need to remind everyone that we're probably facing lower revenues this year than we had been projecting, by some percent. Who knows what that number is? I think we need to move forward on the A contract with the wastewater treatment plant. Consider the force main a separate project, and update the city council at their next meeting to tell them what we're doing and why, and then go back around and rebid the B contract or force main at a time that makes sense to us.
I agree.
All right, let's call for a vote. Andrew, roll call.
Mike Reeder,
Aye.
Rick Gunion,
Aye.
Joe Root,
Aye.
Kent Brewer,
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye. Motion carries. And I think it's wise that we do go ahead and get that part of it done. That's fundamental to anything else that would have to be done.
And Mike, would it be appropriate to ask you to be the point person to make sure we do update the city council on as to what we're doing here?
Yes.
Thank you.
To do that, I'll work through the utility subcommittee. Now we're ready to move to the claims.
I'll move we accept the claims as presented.
Was that
That was
Ken?
Mhm.
Second?
Second.
Mike Reeder, second.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Rick Gunion,
Aye.
Joe Root,
Aye.
Mike Reeder,
Aye.
Kent Brewer,
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye. Under old business, we have I have on here personal safety equipment. I think, Rick, that was one of the things you were concerned about.
Yes, Mike. So just an update very, very briefly. In talking with the board and in talking with Todd, subsequent to that, what I have done is I've developed a draft, a standard operating procedure, or call it a checklist. And I've started with the topic of the locate process, the 811 process for underground utility work, where we're doing work with excavations of any kind. And what I'd like to do is move that forward first, and then come back right after that has been done. and using that template, if you will, put forth a checklist or a SOP for safety visible safety gear and the policies that dictate that. So I'd like to move both those together using the 811 process first, because that seems to be the most urgent to me. And that's the one I've got a pretty good draft done. I should have that draft to Todd yet this week. And as he and I talked, I'd like for his team, his superintendents and assistant superintendents to look at that first, get back any edits, and then once that's done, I'd be happy to send that out to all the board members and get everyone else's input. That's my current thinking, if that would work.
I think, just, this was more for informational than action, for action, right, Rick?
At this time, yes.
Okay. Anybody any board members have questions about any of that?
And let me add, and Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, as it turns out, Todd has advised we did not really have a standard operating procedure or a written policy across the utilities for high visibility safety wear. Am I correct there, Todd?
Correct.
So we also know we didn't have a real good, or we didn't have a written policy with regard to how we assess an area for excavation, before the excavation takes place, the 811 paperwork, photographs. And so those two are the two SOPs, if you will, I'm speaking about that don't currently exist today. So you'll see those in draft form at our next meeting. If you have questions, let me know.
On the, and I imagine you'll have that covered in there, but after we had the Williams Road, this board, I believe I don't know, Rick, if you were still on the city council at the time, but the board had gave all the department heads a directive that from this day forward, back then, to take pictures and photographs before any digging of all locate marks. And it's come to my attention that I really never left the board meeting. So if we put it in as a policy and procedures, I would agree with that.
And that's really where we started out here. That's the reason we're doing this. And it would be very similar to let's say an update to our employee handbook. If we were to do an update to our employee handbook today, we would go through a read and sign verification with each employee signing off on that using a piece of paper, and that would go in our file and their file to denote that they have read and understood the change to the employee handbook. And in a similar way, we can have our employees read and acknowledge and sign off on policies and SOPs going forward. So that's the direction we do want to go.
Okay,
I got a question.
any
About the locates then and pictures. Are we each department taking them, or is the locator gonna take them when he's done with his? He takes pictures now.
I think our plan is, Jim, that he takes pictures, and then before we dig, they take pictures also before they start digging. It'll give them it'll be fresh in their mind, what they had been looking at. So I think we need to go both ways with that. I think we need to do double the work so that we don't get any more gas lines and stuff like that. So I think it's a double whammy that we're gonna pull on these things.
I think that's the second set of pictures is taken immediately right before the digging starts, in case there's been vandalism, there's been any kind of change of somebody moving a flag or whatever, because I do know that does happen. And so right before they dig, we want pictures, because I know it's 2 days or whatever 2 days, they could get changed in 2
Well,
days.
It's 2 days, but a locate's good for what, 25 days, Jim? Is that correct?
I believe 21 or 22.
Okay.
So there's a, I know
So the
There
pictures
could be
need
some
to
real-
be taken.
things happen over that period of time.
Kent's got something.
Go ahead, Kent.
Pictures need to be taken as soon as the locate's done after the 48 hours by each of the departments that requested the locate.
Okay.
And the important thing is I've heard, my understanding is that often the gas company is the last to locate. And so we want to make sure that they've done their locating and their flags have been placed. And then we have our last set of pictures before we dig.
We have the gas company, USIC is who locates for the gas company. And from the date that's turned in, they got 48 hours. If they can't make it in 48 hours, there's a contact person on that locate. And they will call you and check with you. But they got 48 hours and it has to be located. Unless it's emergency locate, you're not gonna be digging usually within 48 hours from sending it in. You're within a week.
Understand. And so we're trying to cover all these different little scenarios in this checklist SOP. We're trying to keep it very simple. So that's one of the things Todd and his department heads and superintendents and so forth will be looking at. And we want to make it pretty solid.
I agree.
Anything else with this topic? Let's move on to,
I think we need to make sure before they start digging that we have pictures like you talked about, because if stuff is moved and then we start digging, we got no proof that it was moved unless we take pictures before the actual dig starts. Not 48 hours before, not an hour, right then before they start digging.
I disagree, Joe, because if the locate's called in, within 48 hours, it's gotta be located. Shortly after that's when the picture needs to be taken. Because if you have a gas main down the middle of an alley, they cannot flag it. And they have to paint it. And the very next day, if you get a 3-inch rainstorm, the paint is gone. And so you gotta get in there and get pictures shortly after your 48-hour notice.
I don't disagree with that, Kent. But what about, like you say, the yellow lines washed out of the alley and we start digging and hit it, then
Well, if we have pictures shortly after it's painted on there, then, and if we get a rainstorm and before they start digging, they just call in another locate and they'll come and refresh it.
Yeah, in fact, on that point, the Indiana 811 handbook, which I have a copy of, explains that exact procedure. They talk about, due to weather, due to snowfall, due to mowing, if flags are disturbed or if they're even suspected of being disturbed, you do not proceed with your excavation or digging. You call in their locate, you let that new locate period run out, and everybody comes out and locates again. That's what they call for in the handbook.
That's correct.
what I'm hearing is if you get it in 48 hours and the person that's gonna be doing the digging better be looking at that picture that was taken within the first 48 hours, and if it doesn't look the same, they better be making some calls.
Exactly.
I would agree to that.
Yep.
All right. Any new business from anyone? Hearing no new business. Todd, you got anything that we've forgotten?
No, I think I'm good.
I want to thank Annie Bacon, who's here tonight, helping us make sure that all the technology works. We have Shane on standby. And just for the record, we have one audience participant. So thank you all, and I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
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 you can leave the meeting.